Lesson 140.
Petit déjeuner.
Francois, a few lessons ago we talked about the word for lunch, which is déjeuner, and we said that it comes from a very old Latin word that means to fast, but with a negative on the front of it, the word de. So literally it means to not fast. And we mentioned that in Spanish, desayuno means breakfast, but somehow in French, that same word formation ended up meaning lunch. So in French, the word déjeuner, which means to not fast, that means lunch, but it corresponds, etymologically, it corresponds with the Spanish word for breakfast, which is desayuno. So then in French, to make it breakfast, you have to add the word petit.
Yes, there is no word for the breakfast. Only petit déjeuner. Usually you have two. Déjeuner is for lunch and souper is for the evening.
The two most common words in English for an evening meal are dinner and supper.
Oh, in French too. Dîner et souper.
I'm sure they're related.
They are for the evening, but déjeuner is for lunchtime.
Right. But in English, we can say the word dinner to mean an evening meal or any really large fancy meal. Even if the meal is at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you could still call it a dinner. For instance, if it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, you could say, hey, everybody, come over to my house for Christmas dinner, and it's going to be at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock.
I think the French word for any dinner, like you say, is repas. If you don't know if it is at lunch or if it's at lunch or in evening, you say it's a repas, or a big lunch for, I don't know, a wedding or Christmas. It is repas de Noël.
How do you spell it?
R-E-P-A-S.
Now, I think I've seen that in books, meaning just like a meal.
Yes, it's a meal.
So repas in French can mean like a fancy dinner or maybe a banquet.
Yes, in that case, I don't know, for Christmas, you say repas de Noël.
Like Christmas dinner.
You can also, for a very large one, you can say banquet too. I don't know exactly what is the difference between a banquet and...
So I think that's where we get our English word banquet. It sounds like just a loan word from French. Well, anyway, back to our subject for this lesson, petit déjeuner. Does it literally mean little lunch?
So in French, you have to know that petit déjeuner in French is really little if you compare with American or even German breakfast. It's only a coffee with and if it is Sunday, you take a croissant, but usually on every day you just take a coffee.
Yes, and when I was in Paris about a year and a half ago, I noticed that very thing. Every morning we would meet at this cafe, and for the breakfast menu, they had two things you could order. You could order the petit déjeuner français or the petit déjeuner anglais, meaning the English breakfast. And the petit déjeuner français was €6, and it included coffee and maybe 2 pieces of bread, like a croissant, and some butter and some jam. And that was it, just bread and coffee. But then if you ordered the petit déjeuner anglais, that would include an egg dish, like a scrambled egg, or I believe also a piece of bacon or sausage, if I'm not mistaken. And that was €10. That was an extra €4. So in that case, I guess the petit déjeuner really is petite. It really is small.
Take care. If you go to a hotel and they say continental breakfast, that means the French one. I learned that. Which is not fair with other countries. I don't know in Spain and Italy, but I know in Germany the breakfast is almost like in England.
When I went to a restaurant for breakfast in Ireland, they served me what's called the full Irish breakfast, and that includes 2 little cakes of pudding, which I ate. And then once I finished eating them, I asked the waitress what they were made of, and she said they were made of blood, and they were blood pudding. And after that, my stomach didn't feel too good.
So more and more, déjeuner is going to be the breakfast in France. It depends maybe which area you go in France and which family and who. But we tend to have to say déjeuner more and more for breakfast. And for lunch, we just say repas de midi. Meal of noon means.
So a noon meal, literally.
Yes.